Hey guys, I'm Becky and welcome back to my channel. So I'm really excited to start another avenue of what this channel is going to be tackling and what that's going to entail for you guys. So a big part of my focus is going to be on careers, different jobs that are open for you, how you go about getting those, and other side jobs that you can take on top of your regular day job. So I'm really excited about it. It's something that I truly enjoy and I hope on expanding on it a lot in the future. Hopefully maybe even get interviews with people in their current jobs and kind of giving you an understanding of what's going on with that. But before we jump into all that, we got to start with the basics. So the basic that you're going to need for every single job that you apply for is a resume. One tool that I use that's really helpful is what I call a master resume. It's basically just this ginormous resume with every single bullet point that I've ever used, all my achievements, all my classes that might have some significance depending on what area I'm focusing on, and it's all in this huge Word doc that just breaks it down by their jobs and different time frames on it. And when I apply for a new job, all I have to do is go and look at this master resume and go, okay, so this bullet point, this specific achievement fits the job description, and I pull it and I paste it in and I just build a fantastic resume for that specific job. Another tool that I use and I highly recommend, especially if you're applying for a lot of jobs at the same time, is using Excel just to track the basic information about what positions you're applying for. You can track the company, the recruiter that you're talking with, the date that you applied, if you're supposed to follow up with them. It also comes really handy when you get a recruiter that calls you back and they want to have a phone conversation or a phone screening basically, and you can just pull up this Excel sheet and have basic notes about what you're looking for and what the position is without being flustered. So it's a really great tool, especially if you're applying for more than one job, which would be most new grads and someone that maybe lost their job or got severance or something in that regard. So Excel is a great tool for tracking that information as well. So formatting your resume is very crucial. There's a couple of different formats that people use for resumes. You've got a chronological method, which is the most standardized resume format. Then you have a combination resume or a federal resume, and then just a standard CV. So today we're just going to be talking about the chronological resume. It's the most common one that's used. You basically just list all your jobs from the one that you're currently at to the one you worked for, and the one you worked before, and the one you worked before. And it's pretty straightforward on that, just given a timeline of what you've done and how you've achieved that. The important thing with a resume is to keep it under 2 pages. Like, if you can have it on a single page, that's great. If you need 2 pages, that's also fine, but make sure you're taking advantage of the space that you have. You don't want to put in a resume that's 1.5 pages if you could have cut it down to a page or fluffed it up a little bit to make it 2 pages. So nothing more than 2 on a standard resume. So another thing to keep in mind with resumes is if you've been in the workforce for quite a while and you've worked more than 1 or 2 jobs and you've been there for a while, you don't want to really go past 10 years of experience. You don't have to list out every single job that you've ever had going back for the past 30 years. You can just do the closest 10 years and highlight experience that you do have. If you're a recent grad, it's kind of important to highlight the education and the training that you've gotten. You might not have a lot of work experience. In fact, you're not going to have a lot of work experience. So those recruiters and those hiring managers are going to be looking to see, do you have the education and the training to be able to accomplish the job? Can we train you on what you don't know? So putting that education on the top is going to be really crucial for people that don't have a lot of work history already. So when it comes to a resume, looks are very, very important. The formatting is critical. Everything should line up and be in the right place. You don't want something screwed here and then here and then here. You want it all to just flow through, very natural feeling. Having your resume detailed and organized shows that you yourself are organized and have attention to those little details, which is important for a lot of jobs, especially in administrative and back office and even high-ranking positions. So use your resume to show off not only a solid work history, but also your experience in those different positions. While it's really important to have a solid work history and show that you you've been working and you haven't been leaving jobs really frequently, it's almost more important to spend time highlighting the relative experience that you have that's going to correlate to the position that you're applying for. If you have worked quite a few different jobs and they don't correlate to the new job, only put 1 or 2 or 3 bullet points underneath them. Don't spend a lot of time elaborating on former positions if they don't really apply to the one that you're going after right now. One thing to keep in mind is if you do have some gaps in your employment history, so you had a baby and you took 3 years off so till your kid got into preschool, or your mother was dying of cancer so you took a year off to be able to care for her, something in those regards, you have a gap in your employment history, you might want to consider using a combination resume. And that's basically just pulling all of the relevant experience and categorizing in that, so it's more of a focus on what you've done and not how long you've been in each position. So that might be something to consider in that regard. So I think with the change in automation and softwares and technology, screening resumes has almost completely gone digital, where it's a software that is literally going and scanning the resume and it's comparing it to the job posting. So you need to make sure that you're looking at the job posting and you're looking at those keywords. You want to make sure that those keywords, administrated or administers or whatever it might be, that's put in your resume, because it's going to look at that, and it's go boop, okay, they have similar experience to this, they're potentially a good candidate. If you don't have those keywords and you're missing them, you might not get selected. You might not even get a chance to have an interview because the software is not going to recognize that you're fitting the job posting. So the job posting, that job description, is telling you exactly what the company is looking for, exactly the verbiage and the wording that you need to tailor on your own resume to fix that. So just make sure that you're comparing them, you're working side by side, and just tailoring your resume to match that job posting, and you'll be just fine. Another thing to remember is when you're creating those bullet points on your resume, you want to use powerful, strong action verbs. You don't want to take a passive approach. I know that might be a little hard for a lot of people, showing that level of confidence or kind of fluffing yourself up a little bit. But if you come off strong and said, this is what I did, this is how I did it, and you're not passive, it's going to come off a lot better in the tense and their evaluation of what type of a candidate that you are. So think about using words like you persuaded, you corresponded, you executed, you delegated, instead of words like I filed this, or I ordered that, or I led this team. Strong action verbs are going to help you a lot. They're going to make sure that you stand out and make sure that you show that you have confidence in yourself and your abilities. So even though you're tailoring your resume to match the job description and that job posting, you want to make sure that you're not adding things that you don't actually have experience in. So if you've never used a specific software, don't say that you have on your resume, even if the job posting is asking for it. You're going to get found out, you're going to get caught, it's going to look really bad on you. So make sure that you're putting what experience you do have, but you're not lying about it. Don't say you have a bachelor's degree if you don't have a bachelor's degree, because believe me, they're going to find out and it's not going to go well. So take advantage of the space you have, take advantage of the experience that you have. Even if you have bullet points that are almost saying the exact same thing, but they're worded a little bit differently, that's fine. Take the space, use the space, show off what you've got and what you are for this company. When it comes to like a technical field or a clinical field where you're going to be using certain software or machinery or something in that regards, make sure you talk about that specialized training that you have, specialized procedures or specific softwares that you use, like Photoshop, Lightroom. That type of editing skills are unique. So you need to make sure that you're highlighting those unique skills and experiences that you have. For example, like my background is human resources, so Workday and PeopleSoft are two of the primary examples of human resource information systems that are used by companies. So I can say that I have experience in Workday, especially if that job description is saying it, and it shows that they're not going to have to train me a whole lot on that system itself. I already have some experience. So it's a good way to show off what skills you have and how adaptable that could be for that company, especially if they're looking for that specific skill. Another thing that I've seen a lot of is Microsoft Office. People are putting, oh, well, you know, I can use Microsoft Word, woohoo! That's awesome. I'm super glad that you can do that and you wrote your resume and you wrote all your letters on that. I think it's more important from a resume standpoint to highlight what specific skills you can use inside of that. So take Excel, for example. What formulas can you use? Can you do pivot tables? Can you do VLOOKUPs? If you can do a specific skill that some people aren't very good at, that goes a long ways, because pivot tables are something that I use in my job all the time, that if you talk to people, they don't know a lot about it. They've never heard of it. It's very unique in itself. So highlight that uniqueness, highlight that skill you have, and make it work best for you. So with the job description, they're not just taking into account the education that you have and the work experience that you have. They're looking at it as a well-rounded candidate. What do you bring to the table? Are you involved in the community? Are you doing volunteer work? How long have you lived in the area? Do you just focus on doing your specific job, or are you going to be a team player and expand your time and your efforts out to help others in need? So if you have volunteer experience or community service or something in that regards, don't hesitate to put that on there. It shows a different side of you that does play an impact on how they evaluate candidates. And if you have if you have two candidates that they're both having the same qualifications and the same training and they're looking like almost equal, having that little bit of volunteer experience can make all the difference for you. So if you have it, put it on there. If you were involved in extracurricular activities, if you were the HRA president, whatever it might be, don't hesitate to put that on there and show yourself off a little bit. That's the point of a resume, is to show who you are and what you can do and what you have done. So it's important that once you get done writing out your resume and showing what jobs you worked and how long you worked there and what you did at those jobs, that you take a break. You take a few moments, let yourself settle, maybe an hour or two, go for a walk, and come back and review what you've written. You want to make sure that your spelling is accurate, your grammar is in the correct tense, your formatting is looking straightforward and it's neat and tidy and organized. Maybe ask a friend or a roommate or maybe your mom to go over it with a red pen and identify if there's something that you missed, because oftentimes they'll see something that you didn't even notice when you were looking at it. So you write the resume, you red ink it, you make sure it's good to go, you pair it up with an awesome cover letter that shows off your uniqueness and your talents, and you go ahead and apply for that position. And always remember that that's the hard part, is getting your foot in the door. The whole point of your resume is to get you into that interview. So the resume is showing off what you can do, the interview is showing how you can do it and how much of an asset you will be for your team. So don't forget, when you do get that interview, that you prepare for it ahead of time. I'll have another video linked down below that you can watch on how to prepare for an interview, and also another one on how to actually create a cover letter and why that's important to pair that with a resume. So good luck with your job hunt.